business, and ecology. Due to the resources usage, the waste, the products, and services it produces, business operates within an ecological system. Business must interfere with the ecosystem because it is our society's primary means of production. However, not all invasions or intrusions of all kinds are acceptable. In fact, business must rigorously avoid activities, practices, and policies that have an unfavorable influence on the environment because of how interconnected ecosystems are and how often incursions result in major negative repercussions. There is sufficient evidence to demonstrate that business has historically been negligent in both recognizing and properly carrying out its responsibility in this regard. There are numerous commercial human activities that have unintended and destructive effects on ecosystems, such as the use of pesticides and the creation of fields.
The dimension of sociological problem. A social problem is a condition of behavior that many people believe is harmful. Some situations, including not having enough money to purchase necessities like food, clothing, and shelter, struggling to obtain employment, or dealing with the consequences of pollution, obviously damage people. However, the extent to which any of these or other conditions or behavior becomes social problems is based not only on the reality of their existence but on the level of public concern. There are two components that illustrate any social problem: its objective element and subjective element. The first one is objective element. It is the reality of poverty conditions, including low access to food, healthcare, and education, as well as high incidence of child mortality, preventable disease, and illiteracy. A social problem's objective components might either perceive weight or quantified in some other way. We also have a subjective element to which people are concerned about those real-world issues, want to make a difference, and think that they can.
Social structure is a kind of arrangement ranked based on the social relationships of people and how they influence one another in terms of behavior. It is expected to function and meet the basic needs of the people in the society. Social stratification is about the unfair treatment to people that gives them less to no opportunity to access education, income, and power because of the ranking on the social structure. Culture is the way of life of the people living in the same community. This may include shared belief and behavior of people, even how they think and act. Elements of culture are the following. Values are qualities that serve as our guide on what is right or not. Those values affect how people perceive different situations or behaviors. Norms are unwritten rules for behaviors that are followed by people of the same community. The types of norms are folkways, which are behaviors that are expected to be followed in social situations. Mores are morally accepted practices, which are more observed and followed than folkways. Laws are implemented rules by the government for the proper behavior and acts of people. Beliefs are opinions of people of what they think is true. This may be influenced by past experiences, people that we interact with, and the communication media. Symbol can be anything that represents or gives meaning to things. Subculture allows people with certain shared culture to differentiate themselves from other part of the culture. This may be based on profession, religion, age, and etc.
Next is the traditional attitudes of business towards the environment. According to Cooley 2009, we have an attitude toward the natural world that view it as a free and unlimited good. That is something we can exploit, even squander without regard for the future. This is just one of many attitudes that have contributed to or increased our environmental problem. In fact, business has long regarded the environment as a free, virtually limitless good. As a result, the air, water, land, and other natural resources were viewed as always available for business consumption. This will result in pollution, natural resources depletion, and even extinction. To summarize, spillovers or externalities, the pursuit of private interest without regard for the consequences, and the attitude of viewing the environment as a free and unlimited good are all factors in the development of serious environmental problems that we are facing today.
Environmental ethics is the discipline in philosophy that studies the moral relationship of human beings and also the value and moral status of the environment and its non-human contents. It It is often said to be morally wrong for human beings to pollute and destroy parts of the natural environment and to consume the planet's natural resources. If that is wrong, is it simply because a sustainable environment is essential to human well-being? Or is such behavior also wrong because the natural environment and its contents have certain values in their own right, and that these values ought to be respected and protected in any case? The environment is a part of us and we of it. We cannot survive without each other. Since the dawn of time, it has nurtured and provided for us. Now it is our turn to nurture and preserve the environment. The future is uncertain, but if the entire human species can adapt to a more reasonable lifestyle, there is hope for the environment and every living thing in it. Time is of the essence, therefore immediate actions and ethical decisions are necessary for survival of the planet.
Some businesses argue that their environmental responsibility is confined to what the law requires and what will yield a profit. But ethicists typically argue that businesses need to look beyond profit motive in legal regulations to find more persuasive reasons for environmental responsibility. The first theory is anthropocentric or human-centered. All environmental responsibility is derived from human interest alone. This involves the duty to assure that the earth remains environmentally hospitable for supporting lives, and the resources are preserved so human life on earth continues to be pleasant. Second theory is based on the moral consideration that we will call the animal rights view. Animal rights advocate Peter Singer goes a step further and argues that even lower animals such as chickens deserve equal moral consideration just as humans are. The mistreatment of animals is analogous to racism and slavery since it gives unequal treatment to beings with equal interests. The third theory is ecocentrism. Ecocentrists use various terms to express this direct responsibility to the environment. They suggest that the environment has direct rights, that it qualifies for moral personhood, which it is deserving of a direct duty, and that has a inherent worth.
A duty is a commitment to carry out a specific action. Despite the fact that duties have many different origins, they all have a moral component that result in obligation and expectations. There are two different kinds of obligation: the prohibition, which refers to behavior we should avoid, and the obligation, which refers to behavior we must engage in. There are three different kinds of sources for moral obligation: the law-based, which is a legal requirement to uphold the law and establish moral standards of behavior that are essential to fostering positive social interactions and productive commerce; the promise-based, which the moral stems from agreements, the responsibility to fulfill their commitments. Lastly, the moral principle as the basis, which is the standard of a conduct that exists regardless of law or agreements. Moral standard may be prescribed by religious doctrine or arrived at through logical, philosophical arguments. Now, businesses must adopt a high standard of environmental protection in order to ensure that they are not harming the environment. A company's sincere commitment to environmental protection must be cultivated, maintained, and developed, and it must be shared by all employees. Businesses can set up workshops and provide employees with training materials to help them comply with the laws and the regulations the government has passed to prevent pollution.
Implication for business. There are theories that has different implication on business's responsibility to the environment. And what are those theories? These theories are the anthropocentric perspective, the animal rights perspective, and the ecocentric perspective. The anthropocentric perspective, or what's also known as the anthropocentrism, is a theory view that believes that the business has an obligation not to damage the environment in ways that negatively impact on human life. And also, they believe that the human are the center of the universe. Next is the animal rights perspective, which is a theory that believes that the business has an obligation to avoid harming the animals either directly or indirectly, means that no animal should be harmed. And lastly, is the ecocentric perspective, or what's also known as the ecocentrism, is a theory view that believes that the business has a direct obligation to protect its environment since it's wrong to harm the members of the moral community, and the environment is one of them.
The Valdez Principle. Subsequent co-authors and scholars set up 10 guidelines designed to regulate and monitor the conduct of corporation in matter relating of the environment, including the protection of biosphere, sustainable use of natural resources, reduction and disposal of waste, wise use of energy, risk reduction, marketing safe products and services, damage compensation, disclosure, and environmental director and managers, and also the assessment and audits. In 1996, Avada became the first beauty company to adopt the Ceres principle. some of the other early signatories is American Airlines, Bank of American, Baxter International, Ben & Jerry, Bsba, The Body Shop, Coca-Cola, and others. The question of why companies should adopt the Valdez Principles. According to Mary Ellen West in her 1982 journal Environment Law and Review, there are four main advantages to all corporations that agree to adopt the Valdez Principles. And this is one of the examples of the four main advantages. And this is the positive publicity that could substantially improve a corporation image in the eyes of its shareholders and consumer in this age of green consumerism.